Hello, welcome to my studio and welcome to another edition of Art Discussion with me, Adelaide Damoah. I'm an artist and I really enjoy speaking to other artists to find out how they overcome their daily challenges in order to have sustainable careers as artists. I like to package that information into video format and share it with you in the hope that I'm able to provide some inspiration while at the same time promoting the artist being interviewed. Hence this series of interviews called Art Discussion. Now today's artist is a super talented young lady by the name of Cherelle Sappleton. Cherelle graduated with a degree in creative arts from Bath Spa University in 2006 and then went on to Central St Martin's, graduating with an MA in Fine Art in 2013. Now her practice at the moment is mainly centred around collage, that's photographic collage, and she would say that her practice includes photography, collage and the moving image. She produces really outstanding work, and for me the most notable work that I've seen of hers was the commission that she got for the National Theatre earlier this year. I was privileged enough to be at the opening of that event and it was a fantastic sight to behold. It was called Bright Young Tings and it was in collaboration with a photographer using his archived image from the National Theatre. But if you want more information about that, then do click the link in the description bar below to her website and also the National Theatre website with information about that exhibition. As well as getting exciting opportunities like the National Theatre Commission, Cherelle was recently awarded the much coveted Chisenhale Residency, which she will be starting later on this year. I will let Cherelle herself tell you a bit more information about her practice and what she's all about, because I think she says it far better than I ever could. Do enjoy this interview as much as I did. I'll see you on the other side. Firstly, where did you study and when did you graduate?
Right, so yeah, I started my BA at Bath Spa University. And I graduated in 2006, and that was in fine art and drama, joint creative arts degree. Yeah, so I had a particular interest in experimental theatre. So when I graduated, I went and did like a 2-week intensive course in Poland with a theatre company called Residency.
So do you think you're going to bring any of that kind of performance stuff into your work?
I've always been interested in performance, and once I graduated, there was a time when I thought that I would go into acting, but slowly and surely I kind of, that needing to be on stage or needing to be a performer dropped away, and it was more about the kind of conceptual sides or thinking that is applied to the body and performance and gesture that stuck with me. Yeah, so performance is definitely a kind of conceptual interest and theme within my work, although it might not necessarily be explicit. Yeah.
And how would you summarise your practice in terms of the work that you make now?
Well, I'd say that I'm a visual artist and I work within collage, moving image and photography.
Okay.
And I'm mainly working in collage at the moment, but kind of oscillate between the three. So generally, if I'm working on collage, I'll still be sort of developing ideas for photography. But I think I've had an extended period of really focusing my concentrating on collage and approaches to collage, and sort of floating in between photography, photographing collages, making prints from them, and experimenting with the medium. Yeah,
and who would you say is your biggest inspiration artistically?
Oh, it changes every day. I mean, if you had asked me that question, I don't know, 3 or 4 years ago, I'd probably say John Stezuker, because he's a really interesting artist working within collage whose interventions are really clever, but so exquisitely simple. They're just, and sculptural. At the moment, I'm really interested in abstract painting, so I'm kind of looking at people like Sean McDowell or Cecily Brown, Fiona Ray. There's also a photographer called Matt Lips who I'm really interested in, and these people are all sort of expanding their genre or taking alternative approaches to their particular discipline. So merging what it means to be a painter or what it means to be a photographer, what a photograph actually means or can do with potentiality of the medium.
Yeah. When would you say you knew that this is what you wanted to do for your career?
I don't know if I really thought about it in terms of this is what I want to do for my career. It was more, this is what I need to do to remain sane. And like, in some ways I feel like I'm really lucky because there's nothing else. But then that means that anything else, it really has to work. You know?
There's no plan B.
There's only this avenue for me. This is the way that I feel at the moment anyway. So I mean, some can say that it's a calling, but it doesn't feel as romantic as that. It's just, it is the way that it is, and I have to do it. I just have to. There's nothing else.
Yeah. You're a member of the BBFA collective, the Black British Female Artists Collective. Firstly, how did you come to be involved with the collective?
I actually was at work and I received an email. I can't remember the name of the gallery, but it was about an event that was being held, and it was the current BBFA members. Well, I think it was a panel or something. And so it landed in my inbox, and I was kind of intrigued, so I read up on it. And then I responded to the email saying, I'll forward to my colleagues, but I'm really interested. I'm an artist myself. Can you let me know a bit more about the collective, or whether, what it takes to become a member, and blah, blah, blah. And so she said, you should get in contact with Anam. And so I did. And then at the time, I think the collective was at capacity. So Anam just said, if anything happens, she'll be in contact. And then maybe it was like a few months later, someone in the collective had to leave due to other commitments. And so I was invited in. So that's how it happened.
Nice.
Yeah.
Okay. And how would you say being a member has impacted your career since?
It's a privilege to know every member and the breadth of their experience and their expertise and their practice. And I think that's a real luxury to kind of be involved with some people who are doing really interesting things. So in some ways, worlds apart, but there are lots of kind of overlaps as well. And also, I don't know, the kind of camaraderie.
Yeah.
We're all kind of working to become better artists, to push our practices further forward, but also bring other people and represent other women in the field as well. So that kind of collective goal is really interesting and an inspiration on a daily basis. Recently, or earlier this year, it was via the collective that I was able to do the National Theatre Commission, and so that was like a real step up for me in a massive, massive way. And I'm hugely indebted to the networks, the breadth of networks, and the work that you and Enam do in order to really push things forward and professionally develop networks and be taken seriously. I think that kind of advocacy work and energy that you guys put in is just ridiculous, and it's amazing.
Oh.
So thank you.
Thank you. I didn't expect all that. Yeah, thanks. Checks in the mail, yeah. So, obviously, leading on from that comes the whole thinking about race and gender, more specifically in the UK. In the global art world, the way that women are represented compared to men is statistically really, really bad. We're just not represented in the way that we should be. In terms of your own experience, since you've come onto the scene as an artist, since graduating in 2006. Would you say that you have personally felt that, been aware of it, or had any kind of experience of any sort of, discrimination?
I don't think I've felt it as a really obvious force. You know, it's not like someone's turned around to me and boldly said, no, you don't belong here. But I think there are certain aspects where I feel that race had a potential and detrimental impact to furthering my career. And I can give you an example, and I won't give people's names or what it was for, but I was nominated for, I was shortlisted for an award, and I came very close, but I didn't get it. Someone else got it, who happened to be a white male in his 40s. I know I can say, you know, maybe his work is better, maybe he delivered a better interview or all of this other stuff, but it became a bit strange for me when people who were on the judging panel said to me several times and independently, you came so close, I'm so sorry you didn't get it. But there was no real reason as to why. I just feel like it's this kind of unconscious bias that comes into play, and it's not necessarily obvious to me at the time or obvious to them, but there are these tendencies for people to prefer to invest in one type of person because they're comfortable with it, rather than with someone who is not necessarily the same shade or the same gender. It's useful for me to think about these things, but then at the same time I have to put all of this stuff aside, because otherwise you can turn crazy thinking about, I can't do anything about my gender and I can't do anything about my race, but I'm certainly not going to let them hold me back. It's not going to stop me from making art anyway.
Yeah.
So
yeah. Good answer. I like it. Okay, so I mean, just thinking about also general challenges, what would you say was the biggest challenge that you've had to overcome so far, and how did you overcome it?
I think coming from, I mean, I might not sound it, but I do come from a working class background, a single parent family, so times were financially very, very difficult, and so ideas or issues of sort of access and feeling entitled to a certain lifestyle or job title. I at times wanted to always pursue this as a career, but things like family have, you know, other ideas. It's about whether you feel that your child is entitled to do this kind of stuff. So I feel like class barriers have had an impact, like psychologically, like thinking about whether I belong in this. Of course I belong in this space. Anyone can be in this place as an artist, but it's feeling like it's this idea of entitlement, whether I'm good enough, whether I'm the right kind of person to be in that space. I think that's potentially been the biggest one. Finances and funding your practice is a really, I mean, anyone will say that, and it's such a privilege to be able to kind of not have to think about that stuff, but it's always certainly always on my mind. Yeah.
And how do you firstly, when you have those kind of niggling doubts in your head about belonging, how do you push past that and just keep going?
In terms of like empowerment and thinking that if you encounter problems and say that you are the source of the problem, then you are also the source of the solution. But if the problem or barrier is outside of yourself, you can't change that. So once I kind of really thought and meditated on that aspect of like actually actively changing my outlook, it has brought me to a place of like real freedom. I mean, sometimes I can get bogged down with it, but I keep coming back to that. Well, what's my issue? If I am the problem, if I'm encountering these problems, then I have to keep learning from it. There's something to be learnt here. So instead of feeling like it's a dead end problem, it's not. It's always an opportunity to learn something and learn something about yourself. For me, that was pretty radical. Yeah, like even thinking about it now, like I get butterflies because it's just like there's so much potential out there if you are always the solution to your own problems.
Yeah. What would you say so far in your career was the thing that was your biggest achievement, the thing that you're the most proud of, and how did you achieve it?
I could talk about the National Theatre thing. It has been kind of a game changer for me, and being recognised and invested in that way, that kind of professional development was really, really amazing. And the opportunity to produce work for the organisation and then also to exhibit it for 3 months was just a dream, you know. It was really challenging. It was like quite a short turnaround, but it was such a pleasure. My practice as a result has changed, and now I'm incorporating lots of different kinds of material rather than looking, this mainly relates to the collages that I make, but instead of using found material from like editorial or fashion magazines, I'm looking at different kinds of archives, different kinds of material, which is really exciting, which is where sort of the ideas of kind of abstract painting is coming into play, where I'm not necessarily looking at a represented body on the page, but I'm sort of thinking about the material as a kind of substitute for the body, or thinking about tactility and sensuality and physical responses to material as a trace of the body, or the trace of my body, which means that I can kind of come out of the confines of something that is representational and kind of embrace this other space of shape and colour and different forms.
Your ideas for success in terms of your career, what does that look like? What does it mean to you?
Ooh, success for me right now would be, well, I don't have a studio at the moment, so I want to be able to continuously fund or have a studio. That's like goal one. Goal two is to work, so I work at Autograph ABP in Shoreditch, and that's part-time, but I still don't feel like I have enough time to devote to my practice, so I want more time. I want to be working there like, I don't know, 1 or 2 days a week, because I love working there, and it's such a rich environment to be around and really inspiring. But I'd like to be able to kind of have 4 days, 3 days to devote to my practice, and then just be producing work, producing commissions or responding to commissions, working internationally. I'd like to get to a place where I am traveling the world and making work and being able to sustain myself. And that doesn't necessarily mean that it's all the time, but I want to be doing that more and more. That's, I want to see the world and I want to make art.
What would you say if you could have anything in the world in relation to your art career, what would be your biggest dream, like the most outrageous thing that you can think of? What would it be?
I mean, I'd love to do the residency at the Studio Museum.
Harlem.
Obviously, that's like, or the British School of Rome.
Yes.
That would be really amazing to do.
Mm-hmm.
But in terms of like gallery representation or things like that, I don't know. I'm sort of in a place at the moment where I'd actually quite like to do or work with like an agency, or be represented by an agency where I'm commissioned to work commercially within that way, because that's sort of where I kind of see myself being able to fund my practice more, as being able to, and also I really enjoy it, and I value that kind of wild card element to kind of always freshen up and enliven your practice, to have these other outside projects that are not necessarily your fine art focus, but keep channeling. There are lots of lessons to be learned in that way, those ways of working. So freelance and working within that kind of commercial sector, like doing illustration or graphics, that would be good.
Okay, so if you could go back to 2006 when you first graduated, what advice would you give yourself?
I moved to London, just go be an artist. Just do it now, skip to the end. I say that, but actually there was so much learning. I wasn't ready. I had to do all of those rubbish, boring jobs in order to get to a place where my mind was so focused on and intent on trying to make it work as an artist that I think actually wouldn't necessarily be art advice. It would more be advice like learn to be okay with your body, actually. You know, this is the best looking you are going to be. This is the youngest you're ever going to be. So just embrace it. Don't let it hold you back. And I think all of that stuff, being totally comfortable in your body, the way that you look, how you feel about yourself, has these huge repercussions in the way that you live your life. It starts like how you experience yourself, right? So I think that kind of freedom and not caring so much, or just embracing all of the things that you feel aren't great, embracing the kinky bits, or like whatever, the bits that aren't perfect, because you only get one body, so you might as well just learn to love it.
Yeah.
It could always be worse.
Yeah, it's true. It's true.
And you've got so many things to be thankful for, you know, like I'm healthy.
Yeah. What advice would you give to a stranger who was coming up behind you and they came to you and they said, Cherelle, I want to be just like you? What advice would you give?
I say don't try to be someone else. Just work out what it is that makes you happy and just go for it. And be fearless in that, because I mean the alternative is failure, which isn't a bad thing. Like failure isn't your enemy either. But I think what is the regret for not doing things. Just do it. Just do it. And don't think too much about how you're going to do it, or just like make it work somehow, which is easier said than done, which of course it is. But I think if you really have your heart set on something, create the work. However tiny you start, just keep doing it, and keep doing it for yourself. Don't do it for anyone else.
Amen. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hello, welcome back. Thanks very much for joining me for that edition of Art Discussion with the lovely Cherelle Sappleton. I don't know if I mentioned, but Cherelle is actually a member of the BBFA collective. That's the Black British Female Artists Collective, of which I am a proud founding member. So there is more information about the collective in the description bar below as well. So if you enjoyed the interview, please do give it a thumbs up. If you enjoyed and you are not already subscribed to my channel, please do subscribe. I don't know what you're waiting for, because it just means that you're going to get all of the latest interviews like this one. You never know where I'm going to end up. You never know who I'm going to interview. So yeah, do stay tuned. Until next time, take care. Bye.